Get stacked.
Triple threat.
Expected value. Now take what you learn, go out there, and get stacked.
Yo, yo, yo. What up, Gripsters, random YouTubers? We are here at the final table. And it's time to navigate our way to those big paying places. I'm not going to give you the spiel about getting caught up on the series. You know what's important. I'm going to do a quick review of the heads-up display stats just so you aren't confused about what's going on here with these little numbers. I know things look a little different than usual, but we're still playing cards. We're still figuring out how to improve our tournament game. So, from left to right and top to bottom, the first stats on everyone says what percentage of hands they're playing. The next one is what percentage they raise. The pink stat is what percentage of hands they are 3-betting. The purple is how often they fold to a 3-bet. The yellow or gold stat is how often they're stealing. The blue is fold to c-bet. The green is c-bet. And the orange is 4-bet. If the number is big, it means someone does that thing a lot. If the number is low, it means they do it not very much. Anyway, let's get into the action. We're coming into the final table, 6 of 9. So at this point, we're going to be looking to ladder. And things like this help us ladder. We're going to be selectively choosing our spots to pick up chips and preserve our tournament life, consequently increasing our odds of hitting them big paying spots. With this stack size, 19 big blinds, for the most part, we're going to just let the big stacks do the dirty work while we just try to sit back, relax, and collect the free equity. And it's very important to notice right there that I beat you folded to a min raise blind versus blind in position, getting amazing odds. Spetsern really likes to take advantage of that. He makes a lot of small bets. He implements a very small ball approach, and I don't think everyone adjusted all that well to that. Ace-5 suited, early position, and a lot of players behind me who can just 3-bet me and force me to play for my tournament life and just leverage the heck out of me. I opted to just stay on the tight side. And I remember this spot being like, oh man, if it folds, I might have to call off with 10-3 because the odds are so good. But it didn't, and when pigs fly, eliminated another player. And we're already down to 7. We've already locked up 1,600 euros. 8 buy-ins. But things have changed because the short stacks are getting eliminated, and we find ourselves back on the bottom of the totem pole. Now, that's no reason to panic. We still have 16 big blinds, but being the shortest stack in the field and the fact that, the other players have 30 to 40 big blinds, we can't expect them to get into huge confrontations all the time. It's probably only going to happen that a huge confrontation goes down if there is a big cooler involved. The deeper stacked other players are, the stronger hands are required for them to get all in. So the deeper the other stacks on the table, the less likely players are to eliminate each other, the less likely you are to get pay jumps by just waiting around. That's why in tournaments where the average stack is very shallow at final tables, you can be way more patient and selective about your spots because people are just going to bust. People are just going to bust and you're going to get equity, you're going to get money. But on these more deep stack final tables, you have to play. You have to stay afloat. You have to make sure that you remain competitive because if you don't, everyone else is going to slowly build while you're just going to dwindle away and then have to win your all-ins. And this is a crazy action pot going down. We got the min raise, call, a lead, raise, and Spetsern just clicks them both, takes it down, risking 46K to win 67K. That's a great spot for him. How many 4s does he even peel from the small blind? Probably had a flush draw or something. But very well played by this guy. As I said, pay attention to him. He has big chips and he knows how to use them. And we see Gustavo playing the pot control, playing the showdown game with his deuces. He was comfortable putting in one bet, just praying that when pigs fly was on a miss. And we will not be calling that shove. I beat you is the tightest player on the final table. So he's not someone we're going to be looking to reshove super wide against. Even against very loose openers, Jack 10 off is pretty far down on the range of hand rankings. So I'm not going to be reshoving that very much. And I thought this was important to note because I remember it plays in later that Pelage raised folded with a 17 big blind stack to a very small stack reshove. That means he's just on a pure steal, because if he's not going to call the guy who has 12 bigs, he's probably not going to call the guy who has 11 bigs either. And if he has a hand that's not strong enough to call for that small amount of big blinds, it must be a very raggedy hand. Otherwise, he probably should just, open fold it. But he wanted to go for the steal. We get our ace queen suited. We're all in on 11 big blinds. I don't think min raising to induce is the play. It's similar to the sixes from one of the earlier parts. We just want to bear claw that 11K in the middle and stick it in our stack as quickly as possible. So sitting on 15 blinds, just waiting for our spot. There's nothing to do in terms of getting fancy on this chip stack. It's very simple. We play mathematically positive expectation decisions and a whole lot of pre-flop, and most importantly, a whole lot of patience. Those could be three-piece, plus EV, pre-flop, patience. I could probably come up with a better three-piece than that. And I bet you guys could come up with a pretty good three-piece yourselves as well. Hey, if you're bored while you're watching this video, then you have 22 minutes to figure out what the 3P should be, and then post them in the comments. Let's see what you guys come up with. Someone's going to come up with something pretty sweet. And then thumbs up that stuff. Make sure people get their votes. Give them the credit where credit is due. King Jack, going to shove it in. So far the decisions have been pretty easy, pretty straightforward, and it's never a bad thing. I beat you. You gotta have the ace, right, man? They just gotta both have the ace. Ooh, I remember that pot now. I was really shocked. At first, I'm like, oh man, if he shows down ace rag, this is gonna be crazy bad. But I really like his check on the flop, actually. Because if CoolFX does have the king, which is very unlikely, but if he does have the king, there's one turn that's going to kill the action, and you're still going to get a bet out of that hand probably. So I don't think we lose, or I beat you loses that much by checking back in this spot. But he opens the door to both getting some bluff chips out of CoolFX, or CoolX. And this scenario can happen where his opponent turns a hand that he's definitely not going to fold. Like he's probably check calling the river too, even if it's not an ace. And leads out, trying to get thin value from a king, I guess. Not wanting him to be able to check back. Kind of like what happened on the home games last week, actually. But hard to fold when you got aces full. And that was a crazy turn of events, because suddenly there were two monster stacks and there are three pretty short stacks. And at this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're down to 6 players, and we're almost near those big pay jumps. Yeah. So we saw that Pelage had gone for steal earlier, and I was hoping that he might be doing that again. I have one of the best possible hands for light 3-bet shoving with. These suited wheel aces have really, really good suck out potential even against the strongest of hands. So I saw the 30% chip up and the fact that my opponent would not be getting 2-1, and the fact that I'd seen him steal once before, I was ready to go for it. Unfortunately, I was wrong on my read. He had ace king this time, but I managed to make my deuce, and suddenly things were looking very, very pretty for me. I have a hand that I would shove with blind versus blind normally, so with one guy being in the pot for, I mean, not even a chip, I'm still just going to shove, take what's mine, the blinds and antes, and just free roll this tiny side pot. And Pelage gets back in the game with one big blind. Let's see if he can spin it up. With action happening post flop, that's not a good sign. Spetzer straightens him out. And we're down to 5. And this is the point when one more player busts that the pay jumps start to get significant. So I'm really liking my position here. Third place, just kind of on my own in third place. But with the two big stacks being to my left, and Spetzer having shown that he's willing to be very, very aggressive and apply a lot of pressure, I wasn't interested in going too crazy with opening pots. Could definitely peel here. I'm getting great odds to peel, and my hand is pretty good. And I have a bigger stack than this guy, so I can apply pressure to him. Looking back, I think I would have liked to see myself peel here, and maybe make some moves on flops that don't connect with my hand, but I feel don't connect with his hand well. Also, it's going to make him less inclined to steal, and may get me more walks in the future. And the more chips you can get without confrontation, the better. Folded king 4 suited on the button may seem crazy, but I recognize a small reshove stack in the small blind and Spetzer in the big blind, who can apply a lot of pressure to me with these two shorter stacks being in there. I decided when he was still left to act, I was going to be opening a very tight range of hands. Nines is one of the hands that is strong enough, and this is what I'm talking about. He offers me amazing odds. I can take the flop for, you know, like 5-1, over 5-1. But I knew what was going to follow with that was a bunch of post-flop barrels, and I wasn't going to know which boards were good for him and which ones weren't, because I didn't have a gauge on exactly which sorts of hands he was selecting for his 3-betting. So I just opted to shove this one in and increase my stack by over 30%. If he wakes up with it, c'est la vie. I'm not seeing 5 cards with pocket nines 5-handed. And I also don't really want him to be clicking me all the time. The reason for not peeling with the Jack 10 here is the same reasons I mentioned before, that he's not the player that I want to be playing post flop with, because he can apply that full pressure. He can put me to the test for my entire stack. I don't want to be, you know, making a hand like top pair and then being unhappy and then like having to think about folding it, you know? So I really decided I was not going to battle with Spetzer until one more player had been eliminated, because those big pay jumps were coming in there. Excellently played by Spetz. Limp calling, just going to showdown. I don't know if I beat he was going for thin value or bluffing. I don't think he knew what he was doing either. He did make some silly plays later on, but I don't know who he actually is, so I'm not going to speculate at that. I'm just going to say that if there was one player whose game I admired most on this final table, it was definitely Spetzer's. And I fold 3s here. Spetz is on the button. I'm just not wanting to open myself up to any uncomfortable possibilities. And here with the 5s, I just open shove. For the same reason I folded the 3s, for the same reason I folded a lot of other hands. I didn't want to raise this and get reshoved on or have them peel. I said, you know, this is a profitable shove for me to open shove 22 blinds with fives. It's very unlikely someone wakes up with a hand. And even if they do, it's much more often an unpaired hand than it is a hand. Now, I don't really want to flip, but I did want to grab that 12K in the middle. I did want to play this hand. I didn't see another way to play it. So I just opened shoved and got it through. It's interesting. The threes are very much similar to the fives. One more player to get through and a few more chips at risk. This is the spot where cold 4-betting is tempting, but I would have to commit myself, and even though they're just blasting away at each other, that doesn't mean they're not allowed to wake up with a hand. And look at this. Spetzer. This is what I was talking about I beat you playing. Just kind of strange. I don't understand. He 3-bets him and then gets 4-bet the minimum. Spetzer min clicks him and offers him 5.4 to 1. And the guy folds. Like, the only time you don't have that equity is if you have like King 7 when the guy has kings. This guy definitely has enough odds or enough equity in his hand to take a flop here. But you see, he just didn't really want to go to war with the big stack. He wanted to give him the illusion that he was ready to go, and Spetzer said, no man, all right, let's play then. And he backed down very quickly, and that was something that was very important to note, that I beat you just really didn't want to play. He wanted to do his thing. You know, he wanted to make his little moves here and there and show that he was capable of them, but when push came to shove, he was not ready to actually get down for battle. And I think that factors in a fair bit later. So Spetzer just doing all the work, eliminating everybody, and then we were three-handed. Just like that. So at this point, we're guaranteed 4,700 euros. The next pay jump is 1,500 euros, getting us 62, and then the final pay jump is 2,400 for 8,600 euros. So we'll sweat the three-handed action for a bit and probably end this part when we get to heads up. King 10 suited, very strong hand. We're not going to be folding this three-handed. I don't think we are. Wow, man, I was shook of this guy. It was a large size 3-bet, and I guess it represents a ton of my stack. If I peel here, I have to continue. I have to stack off anytime I flop top pair. I guess my thinking was that I beat you might just make a mistake later, given what I'd seen, but do leave myself in a pretty tough spot with like 12 bigs. I don't really have a ton of flexibility on this stack size. I'd like to hear what you guys would do with the King 10 suited, who's shoving it, who's just taking a flop, and who actually is on board with folding because of that massive jump that is still on the horizon, and the fact that once you get to heads up, anything can happen. 7-5 suited, amazing odds. Definitely could peel. As you can see, I really just did not want to tangle with... I didn't want to cooler myself against Spetzer, basically. And I beat you goes for the check raise on the 10-10-6 board, not really representing a ton of hands. And as I just mentioned, he wanted to kind of show that he was capable of playing, but when push came to shove, he actually wasn't able to follow through. So I used that read that I had earlier and just said, you know what, man, if you actually somehow have hit this, cool, let's play for it. But I had the ace of hearts, which meant if he had a flush draw, I did have the best hand. And like, it just seemed like BS to me. It just seemed like he's like, oh, this is a great board for grips to c-bet on, so that makes it a good board for me to check raise on. So I'm just going to check raise and try to take it down, and no siree. You will not be taking that pot off me. And now IB used the short stack. Spetzer still has that massive lead. But IB used the short stack, and we see that like things can change very quickly. Top two pair. Obvious. I was probably going to check raise that flop. And I think the ace is a card that Spetzern is going to bet on a lot. So I could check raise, but I also think it's a card that he will have hit a lot in terms of hands he had checked back with. So I think if I bet, I actually get raised a decent amount of the time. He's shown that he's capable of raising with draws as well as his aces. And check raising just looks like super strong. So rather than check raising, I went for a bet 3-bet line on the turn. And I think that I get more out of his bluffs by leading the turn than I do by check raising the turn. Because he's almost certainly going to bet, but he's also capable of repping this card by raising and any kind of semi-bluff you might do that with. Go for the steal, and I just check fold. I think I probably should have c-bet there, although there's a good chance I would have gotten floated pretty wide. I still just need to take that aggressive action and see what happens. And Spetzern just owns our man there. Let's watch that one again. Slow motion. Min raise call. Checking to get it to showdown. Min betting, just having full control of the action. He's gotten the guy to peel with a very wide range, and he's not folding for that price on the river. I beat you was going for that post oak bluff, but when all you've done in the hand is check back and call a min bet, doesn't look like you have a very strong hand, and I don't think we saw him doing anything in the way of betting thin for value. So, yeah, good job by Spetzern sniffing it out there. King Queen, we just rack it in. Peeling and continuing on the above average flops is obviously an option as well. And with his aces, I was shocked. I hadn't seen him fold anything yet, and I thought for sure I'd at least get peeled. So it's a little bit of disappointment, but it's all right. And look at this guy. He's taking down pots with min bets in 34K pots. It's absolutely insane. What? I mean, I'm not going to put it all on I beat you. I let Spetzern get away with a lot too. It's pretty ridiculous what we let him get away with. And it's important to identify who you're playing with at the final table. For me, with the pay jumps being the way they were and with the stacks being the way they were, it was important for me to move up the payout structure. I was okay with that. I accepted that. And clearly it was the same for I beat you. If you identify that your opponents are trying to move up, you can play wild. And the reason I didn't open the Queen 2 suited was that I would have been priced in if I beat you shoved, and I just didn't really want to double them up with Queen high. So Spetzern's play here is a great illustration of adjusting to the type of opponents you're dealing with and just pushing the envelope as far as you can. You would be surprised sometimes at what you could get away with, but you'll never know what you can get away with if you don't experiment, if you don't try, if you don't give yourself the opportunity to make those things happen. Here with the fours, we just go for the open shove. It's the exact same spot as the fives earlier, except even better because we only have 2 players to get through. And, well, yeah, we're 3-handed. We got fours. He's got ace queen. We win the flip. Suddenly we got chips. And we're the chip leader, but my main concern was still taking out I beat you. I had the chip lead, but not by much, and Spetzern did still have position on me. So I think my strategy should be to get aggressive when I have the button and play pretty cautiously in my small blinds. Went for the float on the flop because I didn't think my man would have an ace, but I didn't have the stones to go for the double float. We'll raise and take. Here's what I'm talking about, Spetzern, min click. So take our pot odds, see a flop, and just let him win, betting 20K into 73K. Think how profitable that is if you ran that scenario over and over and over again, and your bet only has to work like 1 out of 4 times to be profitable. Okay. So you can see I was really just focused on not playing pots out of position against this guy. And that 4-2 suited, very down low in the range. And I beat you again is getting pretty short. So I felt that he's pretty short, and with me and Spencer both having like equal chips and him being like clearly the guy in third place, he's going to be reshoving a little bit wider. He's going to be ready to go for it, unlike when there are 2 short stacks in play. So I didn't want to open and have to fold and give this guy an opportunity to chip up easily, and that's why I reverted back to actually a pretty tight button strategy. And Spencer just doing it again. This was a spot where I thought maybe I should have thrown in the 4-bet, but I didn't have a game plan if I got 5-bet. And if you don't have a game plan for how you're going to react, then you probably don't want to take that action, because it's important to know what you're going to do when the situation presents itself. So here, blind versus blind, he's shoving 8 bigs. I felt like I'm ahead of a lot of the hands he's shoving here. This is a pretty standard call. The thing is, this guy was actually super, super tight, so I don't know if I love it, but I still had chips. I'm still in a comfortable position, and I just wanted to take a shot to eliminate this guy with one foul swoop. And who won that last one? Okay, I beat you one up. And this is the big hand. Let's watch this again slowly. Min-raise, 3-bet, and appeal. And then on this board, Spetsern check raises. It's ready to call the jam. So I'm thinking at worst, Spets should have like a pair of 9s, pair of 8s. But given that we've seen he plays a little bit unorthodox, I guess he could show up with something like ace-king here, where instead of putting I beat you in pre-flop, he decided to just peel so that I beat you would have all his big cards in his range, and he could cooler them post-flop. And that's what he's got. He's got the ace-queen. I beat you has the pair of jacks, and he must think it's so sick that he got rivered like that. But from Spetsern's perspective, he was just taking a coin flip while allowing I beat you to keeping I beat you's range as wide as possible, so that, you know, he'll still see all 5 against the value hands, but against the weaker hands, he may be able to get a c-bet out of them before he makes them fold, rather than just getting it in pre-flop. So I understand Spetsern's play. May look a little crazy, but if you think about what hands I beat you may have, it's not that wild. And the check raise is designed to look as strong as possible, and once he's done that, he's just priced himself in. It's 100K to win 334, and we know with 2 live overcards we have 25% equity, so play is fine. And a nice catch, and a big thank you to Spetsern for making me another 1,500 euros, and now we are heads up. So I'm going to wrap up part 4 of the series here. Please leave your questions, comments, and feedback below the video. I would love to hear what you have to say. We got our sponsor of the week, Hold'em Manager. If you're interested in that product and you'd like to support the Grips Poker Training Project, please just use the link in the video description. And other than that, just keep on learning, keep on improving. This has been evanforgrips.com. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Now you know what to do. Take what you learned, go out there, and get stacking.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking.
Stack it up, cash it in, damn, I win again. Many friends come to play, cause I'm on the internet. Better yet, I flop the turn and take a chance upon the river. I'll bluff you with the 7-2 offsuit, whatever's clever, call you all in while your chip stacks falling. Better believe the dealer, cause the game just started. Don't know the rules, you bet it all and then you risk it. If you wanna learn it, you should should go online and hit up Gripsit.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Ever since a young cat, want a pocket stack with cash in the fast stack, crammed in the clam clip. Gotta get the action, gotta get it stacking. Dollars on the noggin, want a lot of transactions. Started as a little retarded, now with the knowledge, playing cards, flopping, bombarded cause it was harder than I thought. Then I got on Grips.com, asking and got what I needed to be to me get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com.